I definitely thought he was going to be bigger.
Space Jam 2 is a movie I've been waiting for most of my life. I know it came out a few months ago, but I have not stopped thinking about it. I have so much to say, so please sit back and let me unload every thought I have as if it was ammunition.
So I recently found out there's a cardboard cutout store in Los Angeles, and they were sold out of Lola Bunny. And that's like hilariously concerning. Yep. Standing at 6'9", LeBron James cock. I didn't think that's where my head was going to be placed. Brazzers. Space Jam 2 is probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, but none of them are for the right reasons. It features LeBron James as a protagonist versus Don Cheadle, and that is just comedy. Like most films, this features actors, but unlike most films, it also features LeBron James, who also kind of gave me the feeling that they just took the first take on everything. I don't know if this will make sense yet if you haven't seen the movie. I'm sure most of you have, but I'm just very passionate and I just want to talk about it because I saw the movie 5 times, 3 in my house, 2 in theaters. I just knew I had something to say and I just kept watching it and taking notes. Like, I took notes. I think the most disappointing things of the entire movie was definitely the fact that Slam Jam was not played a single time. And 2, they didn't even reference Michael's secret stuff, and that feels like an embarrassment, unlike today's sponsor that can be loosely associated with Michael's secret stuff.
Today's video is sponsored by G Fuel.
If I can be real with you for a second, I have avoided these sponsors for so long because I had a speech impediment as a kid, and I can't say this word.
Energy formula?
No, this word.
G Fuel?
Without the G.
Fuel?
Feel.
Fuel?
Feel.
So thank you to this product listed on screen for sponsoring today's video. And more than that, we are starting a partnership, meaning that they are going to be sponsoring many videos down the road, which is giving me more of a budget to buy custom-made cardboard cutouts of Lola Bunny.
And they just sent me all kinds of flavors. They're like, do you want to advertise Beauty Pies flavor, or XQC, or Mango Blitz, or I don't know. But the one that caught my eye was Sonic the Hedgehog Peach Rings, because I thought it looked funny. I ripped his head off in sheer anger as a fight or flight reaction. I'm just gonna say that these products are good, and yeah, back to I don't know, man.
Go to this link on screen and use code Alpharad for 30% off. Woo!
So for now, I just want to talk about the plot because it leaves me with a lot of questions. I don't know if this is going to make sense yet, but the whole film kind of plays out like a stranger danger PSA I saw in 7th grade. No? Okay, then let me explain the entire plot. The movie starts off, it's a flashback. LeBron's a kid, he gets handed a Game Boy by his friend, loses at basketball, his coach gets mad at him, so he just throws the Game Boy away. And it's funny, because it wasn't even his. You know where this goes. LeBron James is LeBron James, and it shows a montage of everything he's done and every team he's left. And then you fast forward even more, and LeBron has a life, he has family, he has kids, and this kid hates basketball and just wants to play video games. They talk about E3 and they make jokes about balls. Get it? And then LeBron just shows up like a final boss, whips out a Game Boy or something, and just challenges his son to, I don't know. So LeBron James sneaks into his son's room, hits him with a "you winning, son," and the son's like programming an entire video game. It's like basketball, but it's not, but it is. And he's live streaming it as well. That's a whole plot point. LeBron tries to do his signature move in game, and then it glitches, and it doesn't glitch like how computers actually glitch. It's like as hyperbolic of hacker smashing a keyboard and going, I'm in. It's that kind of weird out of touch energy. Anyways, he loses all the save data on the game, which again doesn't make sense. But then LeBron James just dabs, right? That is the series of events, isn't it? Enter Serververse. Don Cheadle is, I refuse to call him by his name. His name is Don Cheadle. And he is just twiddling his fingers, thinking of how he can be evil. Trying to take over the world with a social media superstar like LeBron James, which there's so many bigger influence, but it's not LeBron James. I don't know. He just wants to buy LeBron James's Twitter account and use that for world domination. Also, Don Cheadle's name in this movie is Algae Rhythm. Like algorithm. So I think LeBron James's son is sad. So naturally, he does what any good parent does and takes him to an executive board meeting for his career. They're throwing ideas at him. They're like, hey, what if we just super imprint you in all these films? Like, what about Batman versus LeBron, which I would 100% watch. And then LeBron James makes a very self-aware joke of how athletes acting is a bad idea, which it's funny because he's doing it. It's not. LeBron's a bad dad, ignores his son. His son says, I'm going to E3. He says, no, you're going to basketball camp. They fight, he runs away, he gets abducted by Don Cheadle into the serververse. It feels like I'm missing steps. LeBron James and Dom sneak into the serververse, and then Don Cheadle greets them and is supposed to be like this guardian of the internet or something. And he does a lot of weird mind games, like, oh, this is my realm, abducts the kid, and then says, LeBron, you shouldn't have taunted me. You shouldn't have said my ideas were bad, LeBron. And he says the whole LeBron James, and then challenges him to basketball. And then, to like punish him, he sent him to the Toon World to collect a team, which is hilarious because they're like the only characters owned by Warner Brothers who have experience of playing with an actual NBA athlete. It just doesn't make sense. And you might say, well, has Space Jam 1 happened in this universe? Yes! LeBron James falls through all these different planets of what? Game of Thrones, The Matrix, Wizard of Oz, and Warner Brothers is just flopping their big IP dick on the table, letting you know what they own. And every time I give a passionate rant to someone I know, which is a lot, by the way, I recite this and I get to this point and they're like, oh, I didn't know they owned Game of Thrones. And like that's the point of the movie. To let you know, like, you know what Disney owns. They own Marvel, they own National Geographic, they own everything. But like, you don't know what Warner Brothers owns. But then you watch this movie, just like, I'm a part of their ploy. I am like trying to rant about this intrusive advertising, and it worked. I lose. And then he meets Bugs Bunny, which, in the movie, it's been 27 minutes. It's been 27 minutes. It's a Looney Tunes movie, and you haven't seen a single tune. Just LeBron James. And then, this bastard right here. He finally has screen time in the movie, and what does he do? It's Big Chungus. It's Big Chungus. Anyways, like, the whole reason LeBron's here is because Don Cheadle says if he doesn't beat him in basketball, he's gonna murder his son. Not really, but might as well. Him and Bugs Bunny run around a little bit. Bugs Bunny pulls out TNT with the TNT logo on it because they probably own TNT. You see where this whole movie's going. Anyways, Bugs Bunny says, I can't die, I'm a toon. And then LeBron James just says, we gotta play basketball. And then he was like, oh, ain't that familiar? And I'm like, that's a Space Jam 1 reference. That's what that is. And Bugs Bunny tells horror stories of Algae Rhythm, who is Don Cheadle, and how he stole all the tunes away, promised them fame and fortune or something like that. And then he just gets over it. They steal the ship from Martian, I'm having a stroke. So this is where all the references come in. How it starts is that LeBron says, let's get a team. Let's train together, Bugs Bunny. And then Bugs Bunny is like, I got an idea. I'm gonna use this sucker to fly me to all these worlds and gather my friends back. And he does it in private. He's clearly hiding it from LeBron. And you kind of think this is gonna become like conflict or like a moment of contention between the two characters, and it's not. It's not. They go to the DC world, they make a few references, you see a few characters you know, and then they, I shit you not, play this sound effect. The one that every YouTuber uses, they put that in the movie when they save an orphanage. And do they own that? Then they have a whole montage of references. They show Wile E. Coyote in Mad Max. They show Sam in Casablanca. Elmer Fudd in Austin Powers as Mini-Me, which is, think that's tasteful. And if it doesn't feel like a fever dream yet, hard cut, it's Matrix, and then Granny is Neo. And somehow, that's a major plot point that we will touch on later.
It turns out his condition is irreversible. I'll never erase it.
And then the whole team's together, and you start to think, wow, I feel safe from references. And just as you let your guard down, Sylvester spits up Tweety Bird as he says, what year is it? It's a reference, if you didn't know that. It's like the meme. Speaking of hard cut, Amazon. Wonder Woman is training Lola Bunny. And Bugs and LeBron James are trying to beg her to play, and then she's like been there, done that when it comes to playing with an NBA superstar, which again just confirms canon of Space Jam 1. Anyways, Bugs just harasses Lola and she loses the Amazon challenge, and then Wonder Woman says, who cares? Your heart's big, girl. Just like... But the first time I saw this movie was in theaters, and I did get a little intoxicated, and I might have made some questionable tweets. I don't mind the response. There, no such thing as bad publicity, but there's an overwhelming amount of quote retweets, and that scares me. So good thing I got this one specially ordered. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these when this video's over. Wonder Woman just says, LeBron James, go beat the one called Algae Rhythm in the basket of balls. And then it's just like, how do you know the plot of this movie? Anyways, hard cut to Don Cheadle and oh no. Well, that's a plot point later in the movie, and we'll get to that. All the while this is happening, Don Cheadle and Dom are like in the serververse just having deep conversations about how he listens in on a 12-year-old and just... That's it, because he's an algorithm, he gets away with it. If you have a phone, he's listening. It's commentary. It's like that one Black Mirror episode. Don Cheadle and Dom are just sitting in like a serververse talking of like, if I was your dad, I'd let you be you. But he's doing this little thing called grooming, which is bad. And he just starts like turning him against his dad and is saying stuff like, I'd let you be you, Dom. If I was your dad. And it's weird. It's weird. And he just does stuff like this. If you watch this movie with a mentality in grooming, which is not a sentence I like saying, but Space Jam 2's tone changes drastically. And it's a little chilling, if I'm being honest. Don Cheadle then proposes a plan on how Dom can get his dad to notice him. And just starts twisting all these little facts, which is just, gaslighting, a lot of fun, little manipulation tactics along the way for the 12-year-old. He's 12, by the way. It shows a flashback of how he just, took pictures on his iPhone of all these professional NBA players and just sucked them into his game, which is called Domball, by the way, which is a not good name. And it's similar to Space Jam 1 because, the little aliens stole all the powers from the other athletes, and now Dom... He took the powers of the athletes, but then Don Cheadle is going to manipulate those powers. So, it's kind of similar to the first movie so far. Kind of not. And similarly to Space Jam 1, now that all the tunes are together, they're being loony, and Michael Jordan didn't like that. He wanted to play good honest basketball, and now LeBron James wants to play good honest basketball. And then it cut to sad LeBron, who just didn't get it. And enter Lola Bunny, who then comforts him because there is a shocking amount of sexual tension between Lola Bunny and LeBron James in this movie, and I don't see anybody talking about it, and it's driving me fucking insane. I find this to be haunting because it's like he has a wife and kids who have already been introduced in the film, and these two are just... You know what I mean? It's not right. Then they're just practicing basketball, and they talk about putting the fun in fundamentals and all that. And then Bugs Bunny makes an MC Hammer joke in 2021, which outdated, but honestly at this point bold. You just have to respect it. Then LeBron James and Bugs Bunny are going at it about how do they go loony or do they go fundamental? And then as they're going back and forth, the timer runs up, and now it's time to play basketball. Because it's... So if you thought the references were over, you were surely mistaken. As every Warner Brothers, I'm having a stroke again. Every single character and IP under the umbrella of Warner Brothers is coming out right now. You see characters you didn't even know they own. You see goddamn Clockwork Orange. The Four Stooges in the background just... Do you know what Clockwork Orange is? They just want you to know we own this IP. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of the movie. So then sportscasters just spawn, and then they're like, whoa, are we dead? And if you look around, that is honestly the most understandable response of any character we've got in this entire movie. So enter Don Cheadle, and he's like rubbing the shoulders of Dom, who is a 12-year-old child, and just like gassing him up. And he's like, hey dad, we're gonna kick your ass. And Dom ball, and he's like, what, we're all playing basketball? And anyways, it's just made up rules, it's made up points. They throw a ball in and score like 12 or 16 points, and then LeBron James is like, what? I didn't know you could do that. It's like style points. And then Don Cheadle, and I shit you not, goes like, you mad, bro? You can just kind of fast forward to halftime, and we're at like 1,000 points. I think the exact score is 1,039 to 37. But if I can just like mention a few things from the first half, because when you think the references are over, they are. Just kidding. Back to the Buckets. It's like Back to the Future. But it's an intellectual property that they have the right to move as ever they want. And then they have more sexual tension of Lola Bunny and LeBron James, because why not? And then Lola Bunny gets choked out by this Cobra Scorpion lady, and that awoke something in someone. Either that or inflation fetish LeBron James. It's been a weird movie. And then they put LeBron's son on the bench just so they can bring in this robot who you've never met, and he can stop time reference. But hear me out. Who else can combat such things? Granny. She was in the Matrix. It's a plot point. Fast forward, we're at halftime. Everyone is depressed. And this is when Michael Jordan, the first one, goes, come on guys, I got Michael's secret stuff. And it's just water. But it's a placebo, it's a sugar pill, you know? And they don't have that. LeBron James is equally depressed. He's like, well, I guess we lost. That's a bummer. And then when everyone's spirits are low, the one thing you've been waiting for in this entire film is happening. Sylvester comes and says, guys, I found Michael Jordan. And you're like, I am so invested in this scene emotionally. And then they really drag it out, and it was Michael B. Jordan. Classic mix-up. It's like you get it like Michael Jordan. I get the joke, but it felt like they didn't know how to end the joke. Like, I get it. It's Michael Jordan, but it's not really. The issue with this joke is that it made people excited, and then it made them sad, and then the joke didn't even have payoff after that, because he just was like, hey guys, I'm not Michael Jordan. I'm Michael B. Jordan. Haha. Bye. They just decide to have fun. And Bugs has this weird thing where like, well, if I'm going down loony. And then they all, that was it. That was the equivalent of Michael's secret stuff. They're not slamming, they're not jamming. They just come out on the court and LeBron James just goes, and that lets you know he is a different man now. He is putting the fun in fundamentals, and he is here to get loony. And I could explain how they score 1,000 points, but then they just score 1,000 points in like 5 minutes, and then Porky raps.
Nobody knows you when you walk the street. How your last name rhythm and you're still off beat. From beginning to the end, I'm here for all the smoke. Your squad ain't all star, your squad is all jokes. And just with one bar, most famous of all quotes. This battle is now over, that's all, folks.
So Dom says, wow, looks like they're having fun. I want to do that. And then Don Cheadle goes, no, we are having fun. We are going to win. And then Dom's like, I'm 12 years old. And he goes, exactly. And then Dom's like, Dom decides to join the Toon Squad, and then Don Cheadle turns into what I call Perfect Cheadle. He gets mad, he gets angry, and he substitutes him in the game right then and there. And then Perfect Cheadle says the F word and they bleep it out, which I still don't think that's as bad as having Clockwork Orange characters in the movie, in this kid's movie. And then Perfect Cheadle gets scored on, and he just turns admin codes on and undoes the score, which is really poor sportsmanship if you're putting everybody's like entire life on it. But then they remember it's a simulation. And at the beginning of the movie, if LeBron James is a step back, turn pass, fade, ball his signature, the game crashes. And if it's like the game, it should crash. And then Dom's like, oh no, but Dad, if you do that, you're gonna die, probably. So LeBron James dies. Just kidding, Bugs Bunny dies. As they pass the ball, Bugs takes it and then does LeBron's signature and starts glitching out of existence. And he doesn't even make it. LeBron James has to go like this incredible beast. I thought he was gonna Air Jordan, he didn't. Why would he? And then Perfect Cheadle is tackling him because he can no longer use his admin powers because Bugs Bunny is dying. And then LeBron James is reaching for the ball, reaching for the basket, and he doesn't make it. So then Dom makes up a new rule and picks up this boost pad, tosses it like a frisbee. LeBron James bounces off it and scores, and then they win. And then there's a reference to the game from the beginning, and then LeBron dunks it, and then Perfect Cheadle gets posterized and was like, this isn't how I wanted it to end. Something like that. It's just not a cool final word from a villain. Also, Don Cheadle is a villain in this movie. And then all the Toons crowd around Bugs Bunny, who is dying. He is glitching, he is coughing up, and then, right as he takes his final breath, he goes,
That's all, folks.
that's all, folks! And then Bugs Bunny, oh shit, he dies. That could not have gone worse, actually. With Bugs Bunny dead, you might ask, what happens now? That is a very good question. It cuts back to the real life, and LeBron James is walking down the sidewalk with his son, and he's like, hey man, don't you love basketball? And he's like, yeah, Dad, I'm gonna basketball. And then you're like, wow, they've learned nothing this movie, but they have. And then the camera turns 180 degrees, and they're at E3, and Dom's like, what? I didn't know we were at E3, which is crazy to me, because they didn't like turn a corner and the reveal happened. He just didn't see. I am very bothered by that scene. And then the shot is framed like he's about to get run over by a car. Right? You agree? And then did I mention that Bugs Bunny's final words were, that's all, folks? Because that's funny as shit. LeBron James is like, I'm a good dad, which is false. But then Bugs Bunny appears and hits him with the, what's up, Doc? And he's like, Bugs, how are you doing? Which is a very tame reaction for a cartoon in the real world, especially one you thought was dead. Anyways, you saw his spirit float on into the heavens in the movie and the Toon World, and I don't know what that means. And given how tame this response is, I'm very convinced that this is like he's hallucinating, Bugs Bunny is not real, and Bugs Bunny is canonically dead. And then the credits roll, and it plays the worst song I've ever heard. So, what did we learn from this movie? That is an excellent question. Nothing.